The struggles and hopes of wounded Canadian veterans are the focus of an exhibit at the Lincoln Museum and Cultural Centre. The Wounded is a series of 18 striking black and white photographs of injured Canadian veterans. It's currently on loan from the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa.
The photographer Stephen J. Thorne is a photojournalist for the Legion magazine. And initially this exhibit started as a photo series in the Legion magazine. There were 16 photographs, and Stephen Thorne, in addition to the photographs, looked at the stories of some of these wounded soldiers from the war in Afghanistan. It was so popular in the magazine and online, I believe it was shared over 100,000 times, that he approached the War Museum and they decided to curate an exhibition out of the photo spread in the Legion magazine. So this exhibit actually has come about as a partnership between the Legion magazine and the Canadian War Museum. We have programming that we offer alongside the exhibitions, and on February 22nd we'll be hosting a lecture here by historian Adam Montgomery, who wrote a book called The Invisible Injured about the trauma that Canadian soldiers have experienced, particularly with PTSD.
You recently had a grand opening for this exhibit. Were there some veterans, some Legion members in the audience that night?
Yes, we reached out to the local Beamsville Legion, branch 612, and we were fortunate enough to get a veteran, Sergeant Douglas Lawrence, come and say a few remarks at the opening. He talked about his service career and then also the fact that his son is a veteran of the war in Afghanistan and is suffering some of the traumas that you read about in this exhibition.
I think a lot of people don't have a lot of exposure to the fact that there are people who have been injured, Canadians who have been injured in the conflict in Afghanistan, and this really brings that to light.
These stories are incredibly poignant and somewhat difficult to read, but I think it's a story that every Canadian needs to read about and know about. These people have given their lives, in some cases their lives and often parts of their bodies and their mental health towards what they believe in.
Do you have a couple of photographs here and some stories that might stand out as the more important ones in your eyes?
I hate to just focus on the good news stories within these, because some of the soldiers are still suffering daily and haven't perhaps had a good news story come out of their injury, but particularly drawn to one of the photographs where we learn about a parachute jump that went wrong. The soldier was paralyzed, and he decided to go on, having left the military, went on to become a doctor, and he said that his injuries help him to empathize with his patients.
Stephen J. Thorne's The Wounded is on display at the Lincoln Museum and Cultural Centre on Beam Street until March 30th. Reporting for The Source in Beamsville, Mike Balsam.